I wanted to showcase a lot of the work that our government is doing to raise productivity, particularly around regulation, but also acknowledging that you need skills, you need capital, you need a good regulatory environment so people can take home bigger pay packets and afford the things that they want. I think this long-term issue of political stability is a real one, because I know that when people invest, they're not looking only at the current government settings, which we get very positive feedback on, but also where will it go in the long term. And that's why a 4-year term, a treaty principles bill, a regulatory responsibility bill, all of these are initiatives to allow people to invest, to innovate, to get on and be more productive. And of course, happy to take any questions about that or any other issues.
Yeah, on a 4-year term, are you expecting that will be something that's ready to go to the public by in the next election?
Well, the government's built on a coalition commitment to introduce a bill within 18 months of forming, so that's going to happen in the next few months. There will be a bill introduced, and then whether or not it goes all the way through to referendum will be subject to more debate.
Yeah, NATO has been calling for an increase in spending, and we've seen Tim Gross has said that the Trump administration is going to put more pressure on New Zealand to do that. Given your election policy, do you think that New Zealand is boosting that spending enough?
Well, look, I lead the ACT Party that's long said we need to spend more on defence. We need to be, equivalent to our Australian allies. I'm also a part of a government which is working through its budget process for 2025, and I'm sure that that will include decisions about defence spending, but obviously the budget process will be, a merger of three parties' desires.
Yeah, in terms of, you've mentioned in your speech, a significant reset. In practice, what does that actually mean?
A significant reset? Oh, in terms of regulation,
yeah.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about defence still.
No, sorry.
No, okay.
Regulation.
Look, first of all, just about every minister in this government is carrying out some level of deregulation. We've created the Minister for Regulation, the Ministry for Regulation, the Regulatory Standards Bill, which is equivalent to a Minister of Finance, Treasury and Public Finance Act. So we're building that stack of institutions to keep regulation in check, just as we have for government spending being kept in check. We're also doing sector reviews. We're going to roll those out every quarter now. We've got 3 underway from last year. We're now going to be doing those every quarter for this year and next. So that will take us to 11 sector reviews, before the end of next year.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, in terms of pies, is it acceptable that kids are going to be getting pies for lunch today?
Well, I think if you ask the kids, I suspect they'll say yes. In terms of the long-term program, this is not our plan to have pies every day, but it is a celebration of 1 million meals delivered under the new system.
But they are supposed to be healthy lunches, so is it acceptable that they're not?
Well, there's once an old saying that you should have everything in moderation, including moderation.
David, many of our RCR viewers are looking overseas to the US and liking what they're seeing with DOGE and wondering, could we have a Department of Government Efficiency for New Zealand? What would it take to make that happen here?
Well, we do. We have a Ministry for Regulation that is doing what some people in America are talking about. So if you look at the early childhood sector, we've gone through, we've listened to the people, we've put all of the current rules up against a measuring tape, and we're going to get rid of a lot of them. In fact, we're going to make quite a lot of changes to the way early childhood education is regulated. That's not as sexy or big bang as perhaps what some people in America talk about. It is effective though.
In terms of the school lunches, have you communicated expectations to Compass, or have you received assurances that this isn't going to happen again, that kids aren't going to be getting a healthy lunch?
Yeah, they've communicated that this is a one-off in their view. That's because, first of all, it's partly a celebration of 1 million. This has been a huge thing to stand up 123,000 meals delivered hot every day to hundreds of schools and often remote locations. Let's celebrate. Second of all, no, this is in order to ensure that they will have enough production and they'll catch up a little bit, and then next week they'll be back to business as usual.
Was that always the plan, that it was going to be a celebration, that pies were going to be served on this specific day, or is this just sort of a coincidence that it's happening at the same time as they needed time to catch up to be able to deliver those healthy lunches?
Well, I think it's both. It's actually important to celebrate where we've got to. I don't think there'll be a lot of complaints from the children, I suspect, but it's also the fact that what we've done is really big and really ambitious, and it's saving the government a huge amount of money. And the feedback on school lunch quality is actually very positive, and we're happy to share with you a lot of the positive feedback that we're getting from children who say these meals are better than last year. So, this is a really positive and ambitious thing. If we beat up and beat down every time someone does something positive and ambitious, we're not going to be much of a country.
Did you expect these sort of teething issues, as you've called them, to be coming up, or have you been caught by surprise by a lot of this?
Well, you can't catch me by surprise because I expect the unexpected.
David, what countries do you think we should be comparing New Zealand with, and what can we be learning from them?
Look, I think New Zealand ultimately is a success. It is the most successful society that the world has ever seen. We've got people from so many different backgrounds living together happily and harmoniously. We are a wealthy country, although not as wealthy as I believe we could be, and we have the most beautiful piece of land on the planet. So it's all looking pretty good, really. But if you want other countries that we could maybe compare ourselves to, look, we've always got to match Australia economically, otherwise people will leave. I think that a lot of European countries, for example, if you look at the way that they do healthcare in France, Germany, Switzerland, quite different from here. What can we learn from them? I'm always impressed with what Taiwan does, what Singapore does, what Ireland's done. And while there'll be a lot of people who are sort of leery of the United States, you can't judge the United States by the actions of a few headlines. It's a country that for 250 years has allowed a lot of people to live in a relatively free and peaceful environment compared with most of the rest of the world. So, there's lots of countries that we can learn from.
To quickly jump back on the school lunches, so you're saying you didn't expect there to be issues with delivery with the program?
Well, no, I didn't expect there to be issues, but of course, as I say, you always have to expect the unexpected. 120,000 odd meals every day, whole lot of different locations, doing it with the meals heated. This is a pretty challenging thing to do. I actually think if you look at the delivery times that we're getting now, basically every region's been at 100%. I think Auckland was at 95%. The rest were all at 100 yesterday. That's pretty good.
Would you support returning the decision-making surrounding water fluoridation to local councils?
I know that there's a bill up about that. We'll have a kick it around in the Act caucus. Look, at the end of the day, I don't think it makes as big a difference as people think. If you want to drink water from a tap, then it's going to be the same water as everyone else gets. The whole point of water reticulation is everyone gets the same water from the same place going through a network of pipes coming out their tap. So then you're just debating which group of people make the decision about the composition of that water. You can make good arguments that it should be the council who operates the plant. You can make good arguments that it should be the people who are responsible for health in New Zealand.
There's obviously big differences in views across the country, and at least if it was decided by councils, then there'd be the option for different communities to be more likely to get what they want.
Well, that's true, but equally, there's a lot of expertise in health, and maybe you should ask people. I mean, if you go have an operation, you don't go and ask your council, what your diagnosis is. You generally go to a doctor. So, there are some things that you want to make a democratic issue. There's other things that are a technical issue.
Yeah, would you accept that fluoride is good for oral hygiene?
Well, I always trust my dentist on this, and she says yes.
So councillors shouldn't be making that decision?
Well, it's a separate decision, isn't it? I mean, this is a debate over who should be the decision maker. And some people are seeing that as a proxy for the decision. Me, I'm with my dentist. She says that fluoride's good. But people can legitimately debate, should it be the council, should it be the health? There's arguments for either of them.
Are you concerned about the Whangarei Council continuing to ignore that directive from the Director General of Health?
Well, I mean, look, to be honest, that's between the Minister of Health, the DG, and the Whangarei Council and the people of Whangarei. I grew up in Whangarei and I got great teeth, so didn't seem to do me any harm.
David, just on regulation, your bill is coming in later this year, you say. There was obviously some concerns in there about the time that you have left. Does that give it enough time, the bill, to make a noticeable change?
Yeah, it does, because I hope this country is going to be going for many, many years to come, and having some really sound standards around regulation is one of the most important things we can do there.
And of course, you guys have been focusing on growth a lot this year. How does that regulatory standards bill, stimulate growth?
Well, what people need is to know that they can invest in this country and that the rules aren't going to change, not going to have it taken off them. That's why I talk about political stability. The Regulatory Standards Bill tells people these are our values in terms of making rules that affect your property. That must be very reassuring to people who are deciding, do I want to pitch my stall in New Zealand?
What's your view on the Net Zero Banking Alliance?
Well, I'm no banker, but if it was me, I would be thinking, is this part of my core business or is it a distraction? And I'll probably say it's a distraction. I see more and more banks are pulling out of it.
Yeah, Macquarie Group, just in Australia. Do you think we could see that happening in New Zealand as well?
Well, I mean, can I see it happening? Yeah, easily. Just banks can make decisions anytime they want. What decision should they make? That's up to them. I mean, what we've got to remember is that if you're on the board of a bank, your loyalty is to your shareholders and to follow the laws of New Zealand. Everything else is up to them.
David,
All right, folks. Oh, sorry.
David, you mentioned bad regulation is killing prosperity, and then linked it to a younger audience by bad regulation is killing our vibe. How do you think that a new 4-year term and then new bills like the Regulatory Standard Bill will affect young people?
Well, you want to be able to plan your future, and the younger you are, the longer the future you're planning. I think the more stability you have, so that you are going to be accountable for your decisions and you're going to get the benefit of your efforts rather than some political interruption further down the road. I think that's really, really important.
Got one last question. With regards to the gene technology bill, proponents such as yourself often talk about the potential economic benefits, but are you aware of potential economic risks? For example, the New Zealand Institute for Economic Research recently published a report showing that between $10 and $20 billion could be lost from our agricultural export sector.
Well, look, economists publish all sorts of things. What I would say is that New Zealand has had the potential to be a superpower in agricultural genetics. Unfortunately, because we've allowed the loonies, frankly, to dominate the debate for too long, we're now playing catch-up.